Hi, my name is Terry Doherty, the creator of the Glory and Empire series. Today I'm going to introduce a new feature in the series, the Marshals game. The Marshals game provides an operational context to the Glory and Empire tactical game. Basically, it allows players to try different strategies without movements and reinforcement schedules being scripted by the designer. It works hand in glove with any of the tactical game rules, the soldiers, battalion, or brigade game rules. Okay, so these are the Marshals game components, and I'll go over what they are briefly. So we got a separate rule book here for the Marshals game that has both the core rules and the companion book in one spiral bound book. And in the companion book, some of the rules are repeated as they are in the regular companion book, just so for your convenience, and there are some slight changes to some of the features as they apply to the scenario in the Marshals game. There's basically only one Marshals game scenario because the Marshals game gives you all the flexibility you need without having multiple scenarios. Okay, next we'll cover some of the features on the map, and I'll try and get as much of the map in the picture as I can here. So the two kind of white areas represent the tactical maps, and the rest of the Marshals game map surrounds the two tactical maps. So the Marshals game map is an area map, and you move from area to area, just like in any other area game. And once you reach an area adjacent to one of the tactical maps, the player can choose to have his units enter the tactical map, and the entry and exit areas on the Marshals game maps that you see here correspond to entry areas on the tactical game maps. Okay, so let's zoom in on an area here and discuss the features of each area. So each area has an identifying letter code. So this is area FE, and it's bounded by these brown lines and also by the stream or the river on that side. On each edge shows the movement point cost for infantry and cavalry, and then shows the die roll modifier for combat that the defender can get if the attacker enters that area through that edge. So if they entered through this edge here, they would get a 3 bonus. If they entered through this edge here, they'd get a 0 bonus, and that in this case reflects the attacker crossing a river. So when units reach an area adjacent to the tactical map, they can enter the holding boxes. So for example, the 2nd Light Brigade here could choose to enter the map here at D, and exit D and enter D correspond to D on the tactical maps, and you'll see a corresponding entry area. And so when they enter the map, they'll have to move on to the tactical maps during one of the next 3 turns of that hour of the game. So units can also exit the tactical maps to move on to the Marshals game map, and that's primarily how they move between the south and north maps to get units from one side to the other. So if the French decide to do their main effort on the north map, the British can move all these guys down here from the south map up to the north map. And I've shown these guys actually on the map just as a way to show approximately where they are on the tactical maps. So when units enter or leave the tactical game maps, they don't actually remain on this board here. They will go to the tactical map. Okay, so now let's talk about the units on the Marshals game map and how they relate to the tactical game. So the Marshals game counters are 3/4 of an inch, and the tactical game unit counters are 5/8 of an inch. And here we have the force displays. Each element here either corresponds to a brigade or a division or a corps or an army leader. And these force display boxes are used for holding the tactical game units that are currently making up that Marshals game unit on the map. So here I'm just showing a few of the tactical game units on the force display. I haven't got them all out of the counter sheets and put them on the force displays. So in this case, Cotton here is just the 1 leader. That's his Marshals game counter. In the case of Slade, he's got Slade and his 2 cavalry units that make up his counter. And same thing for Ehrenschild. He's got two regiments that make up his Marshals game unit. So the Marshals game units have 2 sides. They have a full strength side and a reduced strength side. And the full strength side is used when all of the counters that make up that command, as shown on the command display, are present with the Marshal's game unit. So it could be, for example, if you exit the tactical game map with only some of the units that make up that Marshal's game unit, or some of them have been reduced in strength, or some of them have been destroyed, then they can't be part of that Marshal's game unit, and you would use the reduced side. So for example, if the first KGL Hussars had lost a counter, then we would always use the reduced strength side on the Marshal's game map. So just to go over that one more time, so looking at the command display, we have Ehrenschildt's brigade, which is made up of him and his 2 regiments of cavalry. And this is the corresponding Marshal's game unit. And you notice that the color stripe and the stripe on the bottom of the counter matches the tactical game units and the Marshal's game unit to help you keep track of which ones are which. So if all of his units are present, we would use the full strength side. So if, say, this guy had taken 1 step loss, then if he exited the tactical map, then we'd be using the reduced side of the Marshal's game unit on the Marshal's game map. One last thing about the counters. So on the left, we have the combat strength of the unit. In the middle is their movement allowance. On the right is their morale, and that's the same as in the tactical game, where it's less than or equals a morale check failure, greater than is a morale check pass. They also have, if they have a little cavalry symbol, a horse head, that means they get a cavalry bonus. And if they have a little stack of cannonballs, then that means they get an artillery bonus for combat. So in terms of the sequence of play and how it fits between the Marshal's game and the tactical game, each Marshal's game turn is 1 hour long, and it's played before the 3 succeeding tactical game turns. So if it was like here we have the 11 a.m. turn, so we would play the 11 a.m. Marshal's game turn, then we would play the 00 tactical game turn, the 20-minute tactical game turn, and the 40-minute tactical game turn. And then we'd go ahead and play the 12 p.m. Marshal's game turn. Last thing before I dive in and start moving some pieces and covering how the Marshal's game works. So the scenario setups are similar to what you've seen with the tactical games. We set up the Marshal's game units a similar manner, except for we just call out the area that they set up in. And then at the same time, there's also some units that start on the tactical map. So the 1st Division, the 3rd Division, the Reserve Artillery, and the 7th Division and the 5th Division all deploy on the maps. And we use the same graphical setup that was used in First Victories to show where the units set up. And here we have 2 maps to show, which is the South map side and the North map. And then reinforcements are a similar manner. So all the reinforcements that come on in the Marshal's game scenario will enter the Marshal's game map at a Marshal's game map edge. And here you can see they show which area they enter at and what time they enter. And I guess I should say the whole objective of the Marshal's game scenario is to get the Almeida supply train off of either the South tactical map or off of the North tactical map. So if the French player wants to win a decisive victory, they have to get that supply train onto the tactical maps and try and move it all the way across the tactical maps in order to exit and move towards the fortress of Almeida to re-victual it. So the game starts on the 11 a.m. turn of May 3rd, and we have the British already set up on the Marshal's game map in various positions. We have Don Julian Sanchez entering down here, being chased by some cavalry of the 6th Corps. We have the French Cavalry Reserve entering in the middle of the map, and the French 2nd Corps entering on the northern end of the map. And then way up at the top, we have Barbacina's brigade entering there to reinforce the 5th Division, which is deployed on the north map, the British 5th Division. The first thing we do is roll for initiative. Massena is not on the map yet. Wellington is on the tactical map, so we do use his sim value. But since Massena is not on either the Marshal's game map or the tactical map, then we don't use his values. So Massena and Wellington are both 4s, so the British are going to add 4 to their die roll. They roll a 9, goes to a 13. The French roll an 8, so the British get to go first. So since there's nothing really going on at this point, we'll just let the French go first. The French will begin moving on to the map, and we move Marshal's game units one at a time. That's very important. So initially, we're going to move Cavrat's brigade. Oh, that's not Cavrat, that's the cavalry division leader. He'll enter there. It'll cost him 2 movement points for cavalry. And then he'll go ahead and enter Slade's position. the area GF, which will cost him 2 more, and there he stops because there's an enemy unit there. He will be reinforced by Cavra. And then we will also reinforce him with Ornano. He'll follow the same path. Then we'll leave Wautier in reserve there. And then we will advance with Lorset also into here. So there will be a combat at that point when we get to the combat phase. So up here, we'll go ahead and move the second corps. And you can move the units in any order you want. You don't have to move them in any particular order. So we'll go ahead and move all these guys one at a time. And it's going to be 2 and 2 to get to here. So that'll be 4, which is more than the infantry can do. But the cavalry. So the cavalry will go ahead and enter first and move to Alameda. Then we'll just have all the infantry pile in behind. And that's it for the French movement phase. Now we go ahead and resolve the combat. And combat is fairly simple. We simply add up all the strength points, come up with some odds similar to the cold steel combat, and then roll some dice and add some modifiers. And the high die roll wins with ties going to the defender. And we also throw a little bit of wrinkle into that. There's 3 rounds of combat, up to 3 rounds of combat. If one side has overwhelming force of 3-to-1 odds or greater, then the other side has to withdraw. So here we have the French cavalry versus Slade, and we have 11 strength points to 6 strength points for the British, so that's 1.5 to 1 odds, which if we look over at the force size odds chart, and that's +2 on the die roll. And then we are going to add our bonuses. So the French have 3 cavalry bonuses and 1 artillery bonus, and the British have 1 cavalry bonus. So that'll give the French +6 on their die roll and the British +1. So if one side is not required to withdraw, then we have up to 3 combat rounds. And in each combat round, we choose one of these battle plans. So we choose the battle plans up front. So we have to choose our 3 battle plans for the 3 rounds at the very beginning of the combat. So this, I'm just going to pick them randomly and see what happens. These are the chits I chose, and normally they'd be kept secret and you'd reveal them simultaneously for each round of combat, but we're just going to do this for illustration purposes. So we'll start off with the British choosing defend and the French choosing enfilade left. So we flip it over and look at the relative modifiers, and the way this is done is it's assumed that the 2 sides are facing each other so that your right is the other player's left. The French chose enfilade left, and the British chose defend. So the British will apply a -2 die roll modifier to their combat, and the French will apply a +2. So now the French are at +8, and the British are at -1. So we roll the dice, and the French rolled a 3. They get to add 8, so that's 11. And the British subtract 1, that's 5, so the French win. So the loser now has to take a morale check. And so we have to roll a greater than the 3 or the 2 to remain in the area. If they fail their morale check, they have to retreat. So we'll roll for Slade. He's a 7, he passes. And a 1. So Cotton has to retreat. And so he can enter the area with the light division there. So now for the second round, we now have 11 to 5, so that's 2 to 1 odds, which is going to give the French a +5. So again, we go back to our battle chits and we flip those over and look at the values. So the British chose refuse left, and the French chose enfilade right. So the French will subtract 3, and the British will add 3. And they have 1 bonus, so the British will be at +4. The French still have their 4 bonus, +5 for 2-to-1 odds, -3. So they are at +6, and the British are at +4. So the French roll a 3, and the British roll a 5, so that's a tie with +6 and +4. So the French will have to take morale checks. So we start off with the cavalry at the top. Ooh, 1 they have to withdraw. Then Cavrois, 4 he passes. Ornano, he passes. And Lorset passes. Okay, now we're on to round 3. So we're back now to 7 and 2 is 9 to 5, so that's 1.5 to 1, so that's +2. So the French are at +5, and the British are at +1. So the British chose enfilade left, and the French chose defend. So the French subtract 2, and the British add 2. So that puts the British at +3, and the French at +3. They both have +3. So roll the dice again. Ooh, and the British win decisively that time. So then the French are again taking a morale check. 7, Cavrois passes. 3, Ornano passes. And 4, Lorset passes. So now we've done 3 rounds of combat. And the defender still occupies the space. So the French must withdraw. So they go back to where they came. Probably would have been smart to have everybody pile in against Aaron Shilton, force him to withdraw. So now on to the British turn, and again we start with movement. So Sanchez has to enter area HG here, and he has 4 movement points. He's got a mixed force of infantry and cavalry. So he will go from here to HF. So he'll enter there to HF, and hot on his heels are the cavalry of the 6th Corps. And up here we have the 6th Division, which are adjacent to the map. So they need to enter the tactical map and defend in this area on the tactical map to prevent the French from crossing the map and exiting towards Almeida. So they will just all enter exit area E, or entry area E, where they will then deploy onto the tactical map. And up here we have a similar situation where Barbacena is coming on. So he will enter there and then enter at F to enter the tactical map. And that pretty much concludes the British turn, and it concludes turn 1. So before we start the next turn, the fellows that entered the tactical map entry areas during the course of the Marshal's game turn will have to roll on the straggler time entry chart to find out which tactical turn they enter on. So we roll 1 die for each one, and then cross-referencing the chart, we figure out which of the minute turn they enter during that hour, and put all their tactical game units from the force display box onto the turn record track so that they can enter during the tactical game turns. So for the 12 p.m. turn, we do it all again. So here we have the French are beginning to bring on more reinforcements. So the 8th Corps is going to enter in the center there. And then we have part of the 9th Corps arriving, and then the entire 6th Corps arrives to bring overwhelming force to push the British back onto the tactical maps. So Wellington is still not on the map, Massena is still not on the map. So we roll 2 dice for initiative, and the British get to add 4. So the British win the initiative again, and this time I think they'll go first. So we want to get Sanchez out of trouble, and then get our cavalry in a little better position to resist the overwhelming force that's coming. So that's some pretty simple moves. So Slade is just going to drop back into there, and Aaron Schilt is going to drop back into there. And then Sanchez is going to head for either entry area G or entry area H down here to guard the right flank, which was his instructions from Wellington. So they'll just go to area JF and then to area JE. And that's it for the British move. So then on to the French turn. So these guys up here have already entered the tactical maps by now, since we're on the next Marshal's game turn. So for the French, we'll go ahead and have the cavalry enter area C here. Then we'll have the cavalry or the Second Corps follow up to Alameda, where they will use most of their movement allowance just to go that one space. And normally I move them all one at a time, but I'm just illustrating here quickly to go through it. It doesn't really matter if there's no enemy units in the area. So the 8th Corps is going to enter at area DG, which is going to cost them 2, so they'll stop there. And here we'll have in the center, we'll have the cavalry all pile into the area against Slade there, which is area GE. So they'll move one at a time. So that's 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4, and 2, 4, and 2 and 4 for cavalry. And we'll have the 9th Cavalry Brigade enter at FG here, and then move into FF to help protect the flank of the guys to the south. And then we'll have the entire 6th Corps pile into GE. It'll cost them 1, 2, 3 to follow the road. And again, we move them one at a time. Oh, I should say there's no real stacking limits in the areas. You can stack as many units as you like, and same for the entry and exit boxes. It's as many as you can fit in there physically. Okay, so now on to combat. So the only combat is right here, and here we have a case where there's overwhelming force, more than 3-to-1 odds with the French versus the British. So the British have to withdraw. So generally, in this period, people are just not going to fight to the last man. It's just not a thing that's done at that time period, and it's generally not necessary. So they're going to fall back into entry area E to the tactical map, and there they will roll on the straggler chart again to see what turn they enter the tactical game, and then from there on they will conduct their movement on the tactical maps. And that's pretty much it for the Marshal's game. It pretty much goes like that.